Hello folks, shintigercurl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another wrestling video. It is now 3 weeks, count them, 3 weeks before WrestleMania. The build has been not bad, but just very weak compared to previous WrestleManias. And like I said, with 3 weeks left to go, how are they going to keep building up these events and getting the crowd interested? We open to The Authority, namely Seth Rollins, Big Show, Kane, and J&J Security, welcoming Randy Orton to the ring, as welcoming him back into the fold that is The Authority. Well, I have to say this, and I thought Stephanie McMahon was good at giving Randy Orton verbal blowjobs. They pretty much suck his dick in front of the entire arena and millions of fans across the world. Well, except for J&J Security, who rightfully don't trust Randy Orton. Honestly, even when he was a face, you don't trust Randy Orton. Guy's a nice psychopath. Seth decides to say, hey, all things are forgiven. All of it's water under the bridge. Randy Orton decides to forego any kind of placating and plays in this other stuff, and just pretty much calls out every other member on the group, tearing them a new one, which is probably the best that Randy Orton's been on the mic in a long time. He punctuates this promo by telling Seth Rollins that he's coming for him. He won't know when. He's going to wait until he no longer has anyone to protect him. Then he's going to make him his bitch. That's not me saying it. That's Randy saying it. Randy goes pretty R-rated tonight. Then he says, "Ha! I'm just playing with you." Maybe. But yeah, they'd be fools to trust him. Our next set, we've transitioned that into the great Intercontinental title scramble. As Daniel Bryan takes on the current champion, Bad News Barrett, in a pretty okay match. These two work very well together. Outside the ring, of course, we have Crazy R-Truth, who's getting even crazier because he has a burlap sack brought around with him. Daniel Bryan picks up the win with the Cena Killer, but he still gets jumped by friggin' Bad News Barrett. As he's walking away, the Titty Master, Dean Ambrose, jumps him from behind, and we transition into his match against the current holder of the Intercontinental title, Stardust, who decides to intervene himself. A lot of people, including myself, are not really happy with this development because the build it should have been built up to a Rhodes versus Rhodes matchup between his brothers, since they never had a proper end to their match. Their feud isn't over, and I felt that WrestleMania would have been the proper venue for Stardust and Goldust to finally settle things between them. It's very well built up feud, but adding him into this is welcome, but really unneeded. It was a good match overall, and Dean Ambrose picks up the win and takes the belt, only to get jumped by Wade Barrett, who then gets jumped by Daniel Bryan, who then gets jumped by Luke Harper, who then gets jumped by Dolph Ziggler. And Truth decides to abscond away with the Intercontinental title, putting it in his burlap sack. Well, everyone's pretty much laid out in the ring except for Bad News Barrett. JBL, deciding to be a snitch, just drops dime on Truth. Truth hands him a sack, and Barrett absconds with it up the audience, up the crowd, and up to the bleachers or whatever. And he should have noticed by now that the sack is looking notoriously small. Truth goes up the ramp with his sack. He pulls out the belt. Barrett pulls out the belt from the sack, and it turns out it's a fake Intercontinental title, and R-Truth has the real Intercontinental title. Now, he can't say he did ask for a belt back. He got a belt. Let's see, what else happened? We had more build-up for the world title match between Roman Reigns and the one-man crime spree, the breaker of worlds, the destroyer of hope, the conqueror of myths, nature's perfect predator, one who is beyond, the universal annihilator, Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman cuts a small promo before a video package of Roman Reigns is shown, which is pretty bland as far as they go. I mean, once again, we don't know who you are, Roman Reigns, and this is not helping. Are you talking about? Why are you talking about your family? You never brought up your family before your win at the Royal Rumble. Why now? Start now. I should say win in the Royal Rumble because he was pretty much handed that win by the Big Show, Kane, and his cousin, The Rock. Anyway, with that out of the way, Brock Lesnar comes out. Assholes clench tightly as he who destroys lives walks to the ring. And Paul Heyman cuts perhaps one of the most incredible and awesome promos you will ever hear. Paul Heyman has always been good on the mic, but tonight he was on his A+++ game. He talked about the entire All Elite Wrestling family. He talked about Reigns' father, grandfather, uncles, and cousins, and pretty much ripped them a new one. And it almost became like a shoot promo in a way. And he was addressing rumors that Brock Lesnar was going to leave the WWE, and hence he was just going to drop the belt. And he states that maybe Brock's just going to keep the belt, go back to UFC, and conquer their World Heavyweight title, which I approve of. And he also mentions and says that if anyone in the back even thinks about doing a screw job, Brock Lesnar will murder them. I am not even fucking kidding. Paul Heyman said in no uncertain words, if Brock Lesnar is screwed in any way, he will start murdering people. And I firmly believe that. It's a great promo. It's a type of promo that you could write a master's thesis on how to do good promos, to talk someone up. And Paul Heyman, he's good at making Brock Lesnar seem like this unstoppable juggernaut that he already, more so than he already is. But now he makes him look like fucking a demigod, which I like. Next up, I'm trying to remember. Next up, excuse me if I'm missing the order again. Next up, we have an impromptu United States title match between Rusev and Curtis Axelmania Axel. Before the match, Cena gets in his face and tells him, if you say another word about America, I'll come out there and I'll fuck you. I fucking own you. Rusev is like, bitch, please kiss my big Bulgarian brown ass. So, Rusev versus Axel, the U.S. title. Squash match. Total, utterly, and completely. After breaking him, and against Lana's better judgment, Rusev cuts a promo where he tells that Americans, if they had a spine, it would be made of jello. If they had a heart, it would be diseased. And if they had a soul, God would spit on it. John Cena comes out, takes off all his merch, and proceeds to choke him out with the STF. And I mean, he really sunk that sumbitch in. Then he goes out to the ring, gets a bottle of water, pours it on Rusev to wake him up, and then locks it in again. I'm going to tell you right now, that was not John Cena in that ring tonight. That was an old friend that we haven't seen in quite a while. An old friend who was the only man in the history of the world to have a bona fide doctorate in the art of being a thug. Needless to say, he gets his United States title match at WrestleMania. Rusev is not happy about this because Lana did it, but she just didn't want to see Rusev hurt because John Cena was not having it tonight. He brought the Doctor of Thugonomics out, and the Doctor wasn't having that shit. Next up, we have an AJ versus Summer Rae match. Good match because it doesn't involve either Bella Twins or any of the other less talented divas, and more two very talented divas having a good match. It was a good match. I liked it. You should watch it. And next up is perhaps, well, before we get to that, another thing happened. Now, normally, I'm not a big fan of musical guest stars performing on the show. Wiz Khalifa, I don't know who he is. I don't listen to his music. Really, I don't really listen to much music outside some old school stuff because I can't stand the old school stuff. Miz talks about how he wants to hook up with Wiz Khalifa and make a rap album. Wiz is like, that's nice, but I already got a man. Damien Wisdow. Yes, Damien Wisdow. This just goes to show you how fucking talented Damien Sandow is. If it was anybody else trying to do the whole fake gangster thing, it would come off as corny. But Mizdow pulled it out in such a way that it almost seemed natural, like he was really from the hood. And his rhymes were pretty damn good for a white guy. I gotta admit, I've heard some. I'm not saying he could start battle rapping with the likes of Jay-Z or Eminem, but he could cut it for a white guy. And it wasn't. He didn't sound like he was trying to speak Ebonics. It just sounded like the Ebonics were coming from him naturally. Speaking as a, I know this doesn't make any sense, but speaking as a black person who was around Ebonics a lot, who speak Ebonics, who went to probably the worst, most ghetto high school in the entire state of Texas, he could pass for black. I would not be opposed to giving Damien Wisdow his official ghetto pass. There you go. Then, of course, we have the obligatory musical talent mini concert. Didn't much care for it, but if someone enjoyed it, more power to you. The next, we have probably the most confusing, irritating, and ball-bustingly maddening segment I have seen in a Raw in a long time. It starts with the New Day wrestling Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, the Masters of the Universe. For some strange reason, the New Day go over on the tag team champs. That put me in a bad mood. Then, I'm not kidding here, not 1 minute after this whole thing transpires, the Usos and Naomi come out. They transition right into another match. I'm like, what? Another match? Who? It's Naomi versus Natalya. Now this match, I'm not saying Naomi is bad, but Natalya, as strong and as skilled as she is, was calling that match. Naomi was doing okay, but Natty was the better wrestler. And yet, Naomi goes over on her. And not 30 seconds after that, before anyone's cleared out the ring, Los Matadores come out, and we have Los Matadores versus the Usos. And I'm still wondering, like, what? Stop going so... God. The match itself was boring, so much so that the fans started the obligatory CM Punk chant, and Los Matadores pick up the win. Boo earns. Boo. My friend Iron Twister said it best. This reminded me so much of that scene from The Room. If you haven't seen The Room, go watch it. Where he goes to buy some flowers, and the entire transaction takes place so quickly and is so disjointedly weird and bizarre that by the time you're processing that he's gone into a flower shop, he leaves because the conversations they have don't make sense. This was the wrestling equivalent of something from The Room. When you have something reminding you of one of the most notoriously bad films in modern day cinema, you're doing something wrong, WWE. I want to love you. You did a lot of good tonight. This did not help. I can't get that back. That time of my life is gone, and I will never get it back as long as I live, and I blame you for it. or Shinsuke Nakamura when you need him. Next up, also tonight, the WWE announced its newest inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame and introducing a new award called the Warrior Award for a person outside of wrestling who exhibits the strength and characteristics of being the ideal warrior. This was, of course, to honor the late, great Ultimate Warrior who passed away shortly after WrestleMania. And of course, the first inductee, the first recipient of this award to go, and the one to go into the Hall of Fame, is one I feel really deserves it. Connor Michalski. I can't pronounce his last name, but I just call him Connor the Crusher. For those of you who are not familiar with him, Connor was an 8-year-old boy with brain cancer. He appeared at a WrestleMania. He appeared at a wrestling event shortly before WrestleMania and made such an impact that he got to meet all the stars, all the wrestlers and superstars, and everyone just loved him. Not just because he was a kid or sick, that he just seemed like a nice kid that everyone loved, everyone just rallied around. And his favorite wrestler, and his dream came true when he met his favorite wrestler of all time, Daniel Bryan. And he had such a quick wit about him. He just made comments, and he just didn't seem like an 8-year-old or that he was dying. And even Stephanie McMahon was in near tears when she was talking about him. And they showed pictures of him kind of wrestling Triple H and knocking him out, and the ref pinning him 1, 2, 3, and the ring is surrounded by the entire roster, and everyone's cheering and clapping, and Triple H hugging him. If you don't know who, if you probably saw him at last year's WrestleMania. After Daniel Bryan won the world title, the first person he hugged ringside was Connor. He just gave him a hug, and they just traded some words, and that was just very poignant. Sadly, later that month on April 25th, Connor died and succumbed to the cancer that he suffered from, and it still has felt an impact to this day, not just with the WWE superstars, but with the fans in general, because he was a real fan. So I can't really think of anyone who more deserving of this reward than Connor the Crusher. Connor the Crusher. Next up, our next segment features Bray Wyatt calling out The Undertaker. He talks about how the urn is supposedly the source of his powers, but then the smoke starts coming out of the urn. Lights go out, and his chair and Bray Wyatt's chair appears in the ring. Undertaker speaks. You will rest in peace. And lightning strikes the chair, and it's on fire. And Bray Wyatt is just cackling with joy and psychotic glee. I'm looking forward to this match. Final match of the night, the main event. Roman Reigns in a handicap match against Seth Rollins and his new buddy, Randy Orton. Now, J&J Security pretty much told him, don't trust that motherfucker over here. He crazy, he gonna fuck you up. Seth Rollins is like, I'm the architect. He's not gonna touch me. I mean, he fucked up. He told me his plan, so he's not gonna do it. He's not that stupid. No, Randy Orton's not stupid. He's just fucking crazy. So anyway, the match happens. It's basically more about building up a match between Seth and Randy than it is to make Roman look strong. And Roman did not look strong here because he won that match because Randy Orton screwed over Seth Rollins. You're really not making him look strong, WWE. And you're not making the fans endear to him if he keeps winning like this. Last week he couldn't beat Seth Rollins. This week he beat Seth Rollins only because Seth Rollins' partner backstabbed him. So yeah, there's that. But that out of the way, what happens next is glorious. For the next 10 minutes, Randy Orton beats Seth Rollins within an inch of his miserable little life, and it is fantastic. Beautiful. Randy Orton gets his revenge, but it's not over yet. He's got plans for you, Seth Rollins, a.k.a. Mary. Your name is Mary now. That's your name. You're not Seth Rollins. You're not the architect. You're not the future. You're Mary. You're a bitch. But overall, save for that middle segment with the tag teams, this was a pretty good show. It built up a lot of good matches for WrestleMania. We saw the more of the IC title scramble, which was good. Build up for the Bray Undertaker match. A small vinaigrette with Sting and Triple H. So it was small but good, but not noticeable. And Cena finally gets his title match, and I'm enjoying to see the return of the Doctor of Thugonomics. Skip that whole middle part with the tag teams. You don't need to see it. It doesn't need to waste your time. So anyway, that's my thoughts. If you like what you see, link, subscribe below. If you have a question or comment, leave it in the comments below. I'll get back to you. I'll answer all the comments that I can. So until next time, this is shintigercurl. That dude in the straw hat saying good night, and do you trust me?